Mm. And let the saluting begin. Perfect. Welcome, everybody. It's, what is the Frank Zappa thing? Some raw, unbridled buffoonery for you and yours.
And hopefully some nuggets of wisdom somewhere.
Exactly.
These guys are assuming that we actually take this seriously.
I mean, considering the stuff that you get to see sometimes, you gotta do the laughing and crying simultaneously.
That is true.
We are here today to talk about training. Favorite episode ever was dropped in the green room. And yeah, training is a journey. It's not an event. A lot of organizations treat it as a one and done checkbox. And first off, I don't think that means anything's retained. Step one. So you can't say that skills decay without reinforcement, because there is no skill with a one and done training. It's a thought, an idea, a word you memorize, maybe. But also, systems change as you grow. We should do an entire episode on that one day. Training needs to evolve alongside your team and ideally with your team. Hey, this is how this thing actually works when we try to do it, get it to do this. Why don't we change what we say it does is a core component of that. But let's talk today about how a culture that is based on continuous improvement, fault-tolerant, feedback, coaching, conversations, structured follow-ups, all contribute to stuff actually working. We're definitely going to touch on why one-time stuff fails, how building recurring rhythms or a cadence actually work. I'm sure there's going to be some thoughts on coaching for systems, for long-term growth, and then how to do all that stuff first and then put KPIs on, then measure what matters instead of just, did you kick it 10 times? And hopefully finish with a framework that's actually useful in building skills over a sustainable period of time and ideas to embed in so that you're learning every day. Let's start unpacking this mess and figure out how to make growth a part of the DNA.
Well, I do think it can be a huge mess. And the thing that I heard you say that I really liked is that training is not a one-time event, and you cannot say that you've trained someone without that reinforcement. I think that it is so common in our culture to say, I've trained you on this already, and then point them in the direction of the SOP. But the assumption that those people are making is that the SOP is substantive enough to actually be useful.
Yeah.
Frankly, they're not worth a hill of beans, most of these SOPs. And
do the thing, do another thing, and then something else.
Yeah, and so it's like, as a member of a team, how am I supposed to rely on those SOPs? And so I think that yes, do the training. Edge method is a really great resource or methodology for training. It stands for explain, demonstrate, guide, enable. So you explain the thing, you demonstrate how to do the thing point by point, explaining again how to do the thing. Then you guide them as they do the thing, explaining again point by point how they do it. And then you enable them to do it where you don't explain it at all. You just kind of sit back and watch. Great resource, great methodology. But again, it requires that mentorship.
It sounds like they've done it at least 3 times by then.
Yeah.
Wow.
If we're talking tradecraft, right? We're talking trade, not communication skills, not leadership skills, nothing soft. We're talking tradecraft, where you have to both know what's on the SOP, the what to do, and sometimes the extent to which to do it, right? Some specification.
That's so beautiful.
What is not there is the how.
Or the why.
or the why. You can put
And
the
sometimes
why,
you don't need the why, but
right. So we say in the training world, there's no substitute for time on torch, right?
Right.
You can read all the books on welding you want. You can watch all the YouTube videos you want. And if I put a torch in your hand and you pop that helmet down, it's going to be awful. Awful. Because you don't know what to run the current at. And is this MIG or TIG? And what are we doing? Are we brazing and welding? And what the hell's the difference? And oh, I remember that from my book. I just need to do this. And then you blow through the metal, right? Yeah. Right?
Yes.
So you're going to suck for a while. And then you're going to say, give me a little more current. Okay. And this is how I'm going to do this. And you start to get it in your hands. And now you get speed. And now you're stacking nickels. Hey, look at that. Look at that. I'm pretty good. This is good. This is good. And then they hand you a piece of aluminum. Back to square one. Right?
Right.
There's no substitute for time on torch practice. Right? When I was learning to manufacture airplanes, how many thousands of rivets did I buck? How many? Many thousands. With all different tools. With this air hammer, that air hammer, with a rivet squeezer, pneumatic. This bucking bar, that bucking bar, a flat skinny one, a big gigantic bell-shaped one, but they all work differently, right? And you can't be good at something to go work on a $52 million aircraft and do sheet metal repairs until you have it in your hands to the point where you just say, for this job, I just need this tool. And then you put them in your hands and it's done, right?
Yeah.
The SOP cannot put it in your hands. And when you take it to soft skills, seeing it in class is even less valuable.
Very well said.
Less.
We trick our people into that.
Oh. And let's go to the why, right? Let's talk why, Zach. Because this is
why, Rob?
One of the hills I love to die on. So, why do we do compliance training?
Because we have to. we want to keep our jobs.
So if people weren't ethical, does making them sit through 18 minutes of e-learning make them ethical? Does that change their values? No.
Only on Disney movies.
Only Disney movies do that.
Yeah. Every time I finish my ethics and compliance training, I get up and I go, oh, thank God. Now I can stop harassing people. Right? Like, so that we lie. We also lie to ourselves about the why.
Mm.
Right? We say we're doing the training for skill development, that people are really learning to not be inside traders, to not be harassing, to not there's maybe 5% of that. Maybe someone learns one little nugget of, that yellow light comment I'm making on the regular is maybe making some people of certain classes uncomfortable. Okay, maybe 5%. 95%, transfer of liability. That you have justification for termination when you want to, right? Like,
it's all for the lawyers.
It's for the lawyers. So let's just be honest about it. You have to do this, so when you screw up, I can fire you. Right? Fair enough. Fair enough. Because that's a giant stick masquerading as a carrot.
Well, and I think that's the thing, is that to call it training, right? It's not training, right? No. Like that's culture.
Check.
Yeah, it's just to check the box. The things that keep people in line, and I firmly believe this, culture does way more to influence behavior than any sort of training, right? Like, why don't we go out and start a new Viking horde, the three of us, and just go pillage and plunder on longboats in Saskatchewan? Because because we all agree, hey, that's not a good idea. And that's what civilization is. Civilization isn't the artwork and the pop culture and all of that stuff. Civilization is the rules by which we all agree to operate. And a company's culture is a civilization in micro. And you cannot
We lost you, Zach.
Yeah, you suddenly.
So this is the miming portion of the podcast where Zach mutes himself and keeps talking at the camera. That's what he does.
Yeah.
So I had a call.
I promised buffoonery.
I had a call come through, and here I am beating myself up. I think that my mic is live, and I'm like, and it's incredibly rude. You can't use culture to teach people. You can't use training to teach people to silence their mic, their phones when they're recording a podcast. And here I am. My earbuds have done it for me. Awesome.
Beautiful.
Awesome. All right, just give me my jackass ears right now.
Yeah, that's so good.
No, but like the culture is what keeps people in line. The compliance training is just for that. But training is absolutely vital. And I think that it's the repetition of training that matters. Yes. And that's why those mentors that we've talked about in previous episodes are so important, because, you know, it's like when you have dogs and like you have one golden retriever and then you bring a puppy in, what does the new golden retriever do? It trains the young puppy. This is how we behave in this house. You know, it's the same thing in an organization. That mentor inculcates everyone that they are responsible for into the culture of this is how we do things. You ask me questions about how we do operations, I'll clarify SOPs, all of that stuff. But the underlying culture is something that has to be trained through mentorship.
And thou shalt not send someone to training to do this, and then when they go out to the production line, yell at them about speed,
right,
and throughput, when you just trained them on quality, right? Because whatever the leader is yelling about is what they're going to chase.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I know how to get quality, but they said I got to do 12 an hour. So screw quality, clank, 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 widgets going out, right? So what if the scrap bin's overflowing? So what if we're losing 12% of all the material, right? So, but in class, they said quality was important. But all I hear from everybody is speed is important, right? Yeah. So the whole system's got to be aligned.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Alignment is critical. I love that you landed on that. One of the things that we do is incremental alignment, I guess I'd say, because we come up with the SOP, and then the first thing we do is admit that it's inaccurate. Right? It's like, here, I just built this for you. Why? So you can tell me what's wrong with it.
Right.
Please go and execute so we can find the holes.
Right.
And then internally, we just put a label, right? It's in our task list. Name of item -%, because everything is either 0, 25, 50, 75, or 100. Mm-hmm. Right? We don't have any other increments because it gets too weird to be like, it's 47.5, but
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. What matters is that it hangs at 75 and as long as it takes, right? It takes as long as it takes.
Uh-huh.
And I do really try to ask my team members, I'm like, until you feel like you could teach somebody else how to do this, we can't put the SOP as 100.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the ones actually actioning it. And I think that's one of the biggest breaks, right? Is in the past, whomever, I wrote the SOP and they don't sit in that role. And now, we get to get into it for the first time today. My AI wrote the SOP. And it doesn't sit in that role either.
And the thing that I like about that approach is that it's human in the loop, right? You're not assuming that the AI is right. And you're training the AI, you're treating the AI like a human resource that needs to be trained every bit as the human resource needs to be trained. And I think that's important. Again, to your earlier point, we kind of just assume that people, once they're trained, then they're trained. But like you said, new tools become available all the time, in any field in which you work. I was talking with a guy yesterday who has a really amazing technology for marketing, really amazing technology, that once you implement it into a company, it's going to make a huge difference, but everybody's going to have to be trained on that technology, right? And so it's like, all of this stuff is just consistent, and having a culture of continuous improvement, which everybody pays lip service to, partially means we've got to be going back to the basics, right? It's like Coach John Wooten, right? This is how you put on socks. This is how you put on your shoes. This is how you lace your shoes so that you don't get blisters, because I can't have a team player having to come out because he's got blisters in his socks, right? Like, all of that stuff matters. And going back to the fundamentals, training on the fundamentals on an annual basis, if not a weekly basis, is important, right? Like, in a sales role, having regular trainings. I was working with a team where they were literally having sales training calls 3 times a week, where they were doing role play and everything else. Wow. Just because it was like, the market changes so quickly, and you have to be so on your game and recognize when you're moving. And this was in a high ticket item, highly consultative, so it couldn't sound pitchy at all, because these individuals who were the buyers were very savvy, could smell a pitch a mile away. And so we had to, like, the people that were being trained had to be on their game and make sure that they were constantly in that consultative sales role. And so having that 3 times a week, that sales training call made a huge difference.
So big.
So your weekly sales meeting shouldn't be 40 people sitting back in their chairs while the manager of sales for that area gets up and says, "Who wants to tell us about a win?" And then everyone cheers for them, and then they laugh and swear a lot, and then go out drinking. That's not an effective sales meeting.
No? I'm going to say that's a Big 10 no.
No? And that business is why it can't grow, right? Why they have 80% annualized turnover. Why the salespeople just don't stick around?
Because they're not going anywhere.
Because they're not going anywhere. Because yay for the social dimension, but boo for the competency.
And it's like I talk about, the 3 Ps, right? Performance, progress, purpose. You have to have those aligned with your team. And it doesn't matter which team you're talking about, right? So like, our purpose between the employee and the employer has to align, because you have to stop thinking about employees outside of a transactional relationship. Because one group that I worked with just lost 70% of their sales force because they decided not to pay them. Right? So at the end of the day, an employer-employee relationship is an economic arrangement. And so you have to treat your employees like customers, which means purposes have to align. We have to be sure that if I'm hitching my horse to your wagon, we're going to the same place. Performance, I have to feel like I am actually improving and my career is going somewhere as a result. That can only happen through training and mentorship. And then progress, right? I have to know that I'm actually making a difference in the organization, that it's actually progressing because of the work that I am doing. If you pull any one of those legs out of that three-legged stool, you're going to collapse that employee and they're going to leave. They will leave. It's just a matter of time. And so by having strong, robust training in an organization, you're constantly touching on those three things over and over again. Remember, this is our purpose. Our purpose is to help customers get X, Y, and Z result. Remember, this is the outcome that we want you to produce. But we're going to make sure that we're training you to perform so that you can produce that outcome. And this is the progress that we're making. So we're talking about wins. We're reviewing KPIs. We're actually having those conversations, but it's not the main focal point. And I'm not your buddy. I've on sales teams that I've led and on training calls that I've led, I've told guys, like, listen, you're probably going to think I'm a dick sometimes. And it's just because my job is to make sure that you are the elite sales team in this organization. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you when your zipper's down and when you've got a booger hanging out of your nose, and you're going to think I'm the worst person in the world until your paycheck comes. Right. And then you're going to say, I am so glad that I am on Zach Stuckey's team because he got me to know what the hell I was doing. And this is why, right? Like, that's what training does. And I'm getting passionate about this. You guys got me on my high horse again. You do it every time, but it matters. It matters. And training can't just be a one and done. It's got to be this perpetual thing. All right. Thanks for attending my TED Talk.
Nice. No, that's great.
Nice.
That was great.
The research proves out to validate your point, Zach. It's not just about in the sales org, but generally speaking, the top 2 out of the 10 factors that impact the efficacy of training, right? The learning journey. The top 2 are both leader-based. Leader discussion before the training happens and leader discussion after the training happens. So all you got to do is not suck as a leader. Just talk to them. How did it go? What did you learn? That's amazing. How can I help you be more awesome at that, right?
Yeah.
Zach's point, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to make you awesome so you can grow and develop, right? Because someone's got to get my job someday. Might as well be you, right? Do you want it? What do you want, right? Let's go. Let's grow, right? So push them with positivity and just talk to your people when they get back from training. Talk to them. Talk to them before they go so they pay attention, right? I don't want prisoners in class. Those of us who do training, when we're up on stage, we look at the class, we quickly sort who's on vacation, who's a prisoner, and who's engaged, right? That's the 3 audiences. So, yeah, I don't want prisoners. The way you turn them not into prisoners is by talking to them before they go.
Mm-hmm. So, well, imagine how much money that wastes having vacationers and prisoners attending these things. Imagine, like, and imagine the exposure that you're risking, right? Imagine that you're a heavy equipment manufacturer or a heavy equipment like excavator or something like that, right? Or you do steel building erection and you were doing a safety training and you brought this third party in. They're the top of the line. They're doing safety training. It's what the union requires. So that's what you're doing, right? You have vacationers and you have prisoners in that thing. If they don't pay attention, all of a sudden, who is liable? Who is liable? Honestly, even though you want to say, oh, we'll shift it, you have to believe the union is going to hold you accountable for that. And that the law, depending on which states you're in, is going to hold you accountable for that too. And that's expensive.
We did make them sit through the OSHA 30-hour course, Zach. And you know why they call it the OSHA 30-hour course? Because it takes 30 hours. There's a time, literally a timer.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask about that because there's two differing opinions, right? One of them is 10,000 hours to mastery.
Yep.
But then there's numerous people who've said, but you can get a damn good start if you just sit down and do something for 20 hours.
Yes. It's not a straight line.
Yeah. And so how would you work that in? Right? Like there's obviously got to be some sort of cadence, some sort of repetition, some sort of like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Now let's do it. This is what we just did. And some sort of the, like, this is the A, the B, the C. And I know like it's a little bit bespoke. That's why you consult on these things. But can you at least give people a framework to work inside of to start thinking about it?
I think it's hard not to be all inside baseball on this, but
okay.
There's a concept here called Bloom's taxonomy. And at the bottom is, I heard you. And at the top is, I can synthesize what I've learned with other concepts to produce a new idea, an innovation, a synthesis, right? That's the top. And in between, right near in the middle is, I can apply what I learned. So this learning curve is really an inverse logarithmic kind of curve, right? So the question is, how far up that steep initial slope are you going to go in training, and how quickly can you get to that point where you're getting diminishing returns? 20 hours can often get you to that point where the tangential slope, I'm getting a little nerdy and mathy here, but you're starting to cheat out the 45 degrees and you're approaching the diminishing returns, right? So you can get there. So how do you do that, right? If that's your question. Good design is not me talking at the front of the room. Good design is what the students are doing. So sometimes we have to introduce a concept. We set the rules for the activity. We put people in pairs, trios, small groups, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes we have everyone get out of the chair and walk around the room. We do things like living type table, right? We integrate kinesthetic with auditory, with visual, with content, right? Different kinds of learners get what they need. And all of a sudden, oh, now they can retain. All right, retain. Whoa, we're only at level 2. Now I got to make you give that back to me, right? Make me understand that you understood, right? Then put people in a place to practice. Now we're getting to application. Now we ask them to mentally map that onto what they've done, how it went wrong, how it will go right next time. Now we're forecasting excellence, right? Write themselves an action plan, assign them a peer coach, get them a mentor. And when you get back to your desk, your manager is going to ask you how this went. Share your action plan with them. So good design, systemic implementation, make it a journey, and you get actual competency and behavior change.
So one of the things that you said, Rob, that really stood out to me is that Bloom's taxonomy, because I think that the underlying assumption is that as you're designing this, you're designing it for or according to that Bloom's taxonomy, where you want them to get to that application and synthesis, which some could argue is a certain level of mastery, right? But you have to be able to own that material to be able to get there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the goal that we should be training for. And one thing that I think does need to be explicitly teased out here is the ability to ask questions. Because the sales teams and just the teams in general that I've worked on that I have seen just fail dismally are the ones who are either afraid of or feel like they can't or are discouraged from asking questions, right? They're afraid to ask questions. They're discouraged from asking questions. You know, those are the sales teams that have the hardest time. And in general, those are the teams that underperform. And so I think that being able to ask those questions is a key part of that synthesis But if you're so focused on, okay, we've got to get through the material, we've got to get through the material, we've got to get through the material, right? We've only got 3 days to get through the material. You are going to get through the material, but will you actually train anyone?
Yeah, it's
Let's talk about building the skill too. I want to bring a physical component into this. We're leaving baseball and going to basketball for a moment, but I had a friend years ago, and I'd asked him about this, right? And like everybody's heard the basketball player name, because there's more than one, who was there before practice started and stayed after. But I hadn't heard it broken down to this level. And so what my friend filled me in about is he's like, this is what my teacher taught me. You go into the key, get your basketball, and you lie down on the floor. It's like you are allowed to hold your arm like this and do this till you get a basket.
Oh.
And you just learn from elbow to wrist. And until you have from elbow to wrist, you can't do elbow, wrist, shoulder. And until you can do elbow, wrist, shoulder, you cannot sit up. Right? And then you sit up, and then you go like tall on your knees, and you graduate to standing.
Wow.
I never ever thought of taking that many steps to get there, but I bet you're better when you're done.
Well, because you've broken out the mechanics, each step of the mechanics of the shot, right?
Yeah. And then some, like the impact of your vestibular system, like we could go into the whole neurological side of it, but it's like, wow, somebody really cared about getting it right. And so I think that's another thing is, especially those who are on the other side of the SOP tend to be like, do the thing. It's like, okay, but the thing is actually, there's 17 skills to learn inside of doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Like we haven't even gotten to the point of like moving and taking a shot yet.
Well, and that's so this is what's resonating with me, right? Is when you learn Mandarin, and I can read and write and speak Mandarin. When you learn Mandarin, they don't start with characters for a very specific reason, because characters are made up of about 100, 120, depending on who you talk to. They're called radicals, because Mandarin is a pictograph system. And so they take these radicals and they combine them to create a new character. And these characters, like it's actually really fun to break out these characters and find what were they trying to say with that. So like, for example, the word good is the radical for a woman and a child. The man is a radical for a power and a field. So men have strength in the field, women are good when they have children, right? That's the underpinnings of Chinese culture that you can discover there. And so it's like, that's how you teach Chinese characters, is you start with the radicals and you say, this is this radical, this is this radical, this is this radical, right? These are the sounds that they make. And it's very similar with any kind of skill set, I think. And this is going back to the synthesis. It's like when you break it out and you say, how many individual skills are related to this? Then we can start talking about, okay, well, what do we need to improve on? Because then all of a sudden you have, well, if we want to improve quality and speed, well, then let's look, what are the skills related to speed? What are the skills related to quality? Are there any skills that are in direct opposition? How do we need to work on and train these particular skills, right? And it gives the trainer and the manager or the team leader, whatever, a lot more arrows in their quiver that they can work with to help their teams hit the target.
Oh, there's so much.
Are we going to talk about what the target is too?
Well, Rob is deep in thought, and I'm worried he's just going to come and tear my dreams apart.
Every dog trainer knows what we're talking about. Right? Every single one. Step, function, learning. That's it. Right? Like, you do the thing, you get the reward. You do the next higher thing, you get the reward. You do the next higher thing, you get the reward. You take away the treat, all of a sudden the performance becomes the reward in and of itself. Right? I just want to be awesome because now I can be awesome. Right? And it's nice to be awesome. Yeah, every dog trainer knows. The other part of this, Zach, is we talk about removing people's internal interference. Right? So your belief,
right?
Whether or not you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Right? So the way the Marine Corps breaks us of that is they send you through something called the confidence course, which is not something you experience a lot of confidence in. But once you've finished it, you are really damn confident because you have done some significantly risky things and survived. Like, most people survive. Some people get broken legs and have other problems, right? Like, one of the best obstacles, they call it the stairway to heaven. It's a ladder built out of telephone poles and 2x8s. And it goes 50 feet in the air. And every rung on the ladder is farther apart than the rung below it. So at the bottom, the rungs are like 3 feet apart. And the next rung is 3.5 feet. And the next one is 4 feet. So 40 feet up in the air, they're like 6 feet apart.
Right.
And you got to go over it. How do you do that? Right? Now you're 40 feet. If you fall, you could die. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you reach up, you grab a hold, you flip a foot up there, you get over, and boy, are you hanging on, right? Because you don't want to fall. And you put your feet down on the other side. And the feeling of accomplishment and confidence you get after doing that, that's why Marines get out of boot camp and they feel like they're invincible, right?
Yeah.
And that's one obstacle, and there's like 10 of them. It's like, it's a lot. Jump out from a structure 30 feet in the air and catch a rope and lower yourself to the ground. You only get one shot at getting that right.
Right.
That's pretty dope.
Or you get 2 broken legs, right? It's either grab rope. Some people grab it and then just take all the skin off their hands because they don't do it correctly.
Mm.
You're supposed to grab with your feet and your hands, right? You're supposed to be part of the rope. They don't get it right, and they just, and then 30 feet and they get up and they're bloody, right? But at least you didn't break both your legs, right? That's the middle ground, is no skin on your hands. So you do, people get hurt, but anyone who doesn't get hurt feels incredible at the end, right? So some amount of risk, some amount of practice builds confidence. Time on torch, right?
Yeah.
I want you to burn through that metal. Go ahead, because you're going to do it anyway. Just go ahead and punch a hole in that piece of aluminum. Just please don't cut your finger off with the torch, right? Like, draw the line. Put on the damn welding gloves. Provide some margin of safety. We don't actually want people dying in boot camp. We're okay if they get a little maimed, right? We don't
Yeah, but it's experiences that make us learn too, right? I think that's the other part that you're alluding to. And, to bring it back to simple for a minute, the contexts of like the container and the content inside at that container, and be like, this is your sandbox. Please go make mistakes in it.
Yes.
Please break things so that we know what it feels like, what it looks like, what 2 clicks too far is, right? You really want that stuff done in the place where, that are you sure you want to delete is an unrecoverable asset.
Yeah.
Right? Because once you're outside of that, then it becomes bad.
My brother-in-law took my niece out this winter when it snowed to an empty parking lot. She was learning to drive, and he said, you don't know how to drive until you know how to drive in snow and what the car does when you lose traction and how to fix it and how it does in forward and how it does in reverse
brilliant.
And slide. So they did a whole 3 hours of go up to 30 miles an hour, cut the wheel and lock it up. And she did, whoa, right? And he goes, that's awful. You don't want to do that, right? So let's do that halfway and then correct it, steer in the direction, right? And she learned all these skills in a safe sandbox, right? More like a snow box. But more parents did that. How many less accidents? How many less hospital? How much less? So if you live in a snowy climate, when it snows, it's an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fault-tolerant teaching mindset, right? Be a coach.
Right? Okay. So this is something that's landing with me where I think we need some clarification here, because I agree with what you're talking about. The biggest problem that I see is that an employer will say, yeah, but I'm not their daddy. And so the biggest, not the biggest, but one of the biggest obstacles to having solid training regimens in an organization is people don't take ownership of it, and they don't take it seriously. And because they don't take ownership of it, and because they don't take it seriously, because I'm not his daddy, if he cuts his finger off with a welding torch, that's on him, right? That's a problem. And so why should people actually take ownership of it? Why should they actually care about this? And in a sort of a basically say, yes, I'm going to take ownership and responsibility for you until you are mature enough to take ownership and responsibility of yourself in this organization and in this culture. Why should they do that?
I first want to point out how many times you said why. Right? We're getting back to the why portion here now. And then, I do think the cultural stuff, and I'll kind of lean on Rob a lot for it, but what is this company, organization, team dedicated to?
Right. What's the mission? What's your role in the mission? How do I, as a leader, fulfill that mission through the performance of my people? It is not by them cutting off their fingers, right? It is by them executing stacks of nickels upon stacks of nickels flawlessly at the welding table, right? Or widgets fast and of high quality with minimal scrap time after time in a reliable way. Or my leaders are good coaches who have high retention rates, and the turnover they have is because their people get promoted and poached into other organizations, right?
Very different KPIs.
My cost of turnover is 213% of their salaries. So the less voluntary quits I get, the better. And indeed, there's margin on performance. The time at which they're awesome, but I'm paying them like they're normal, is excess profit and gain for me as their leader. So why would I not build that continuously in my people? Because that makes me look better, right? These are the tenets of servant leadership. Yes, I'm in charge. Yes,
but it's hard and I'm tired.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't have the energy, then you shouldn't be in leadership. Go back to an IC position.
There's also hiring the right people. I was in a conversation with somebody yesterday. They're in this organization. 2 companies have kind of become one. There's a mess in there already, but bit by bit, right? How's a wall built? One brick at a time. And so the anecdote was that somebody in leadership sent her an email and like, so-and-so just resigned via text. And she's like, no, they didn't. Built up a template, sent the template over to so-and-so, and it's like, please complete this. Right? And like built a process in 5 minutes because they simply wouldn't tolerate not having one, which means that's the right person in the right spot. Right? Like I already know that I would hire this person. I don't know what for yet, but it's like, well, that is a behavior worth rewarding.
Yes. And I think that you're right. You're both right? Making sure that you're hiring the right people because it's going to make being a leader much easier. And if you don't have the stamina for it, it's okay to get out of the position, right? Like you don't have to be a manager just because our culture says you have to be a manager. You don't have to be an entrepreneur just because our culture says everybody's got to be an entrepreneur. Honestly, the best thing for you is to find where you can be great and just be great in that position. If you are the best damn welder in the world, be the best welder in the world. If you're the best doctor, be the best doctor. If you are the best junior marketing associate, be the best junior marketing associate in the world. There is no shame in that. None whatsoever. Whatever role you're in, just own it. Just own it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well said. And I think that's where the Kaizen comes in, right? Because like that was sort of in the preamble about how do we make things better. And when you have the right person in the right role, you can trust them to say something here is broken. Something here doesn't work. I have a better idea.
But we love to hand those people severance agreements, Jacob. We tell them things like, well, you don't understand how it works here. And that's not how it works here. And we've been doing it this way.
You're not on the team. You're not on the bus.
To this point, well, indeed, we're at an inflection point, and maybe now's the time to work on our 80% annual turnover, right? Maybe now's the time to put 20 million on the bottom line, right? So we have more operational cash flow to be able to invest in our growth. Maybe.
Well, and I didn't see when I got hired and walked in and saw the company values on the wall. I guess I didn't read number 7, thou shalt not challenge the culture of complacency.
Right.
Well,
right.
We're sort of mocking this tongue in cheek, but to Rob's point, like this is a real thing. I've worked on teams before where, I kid you not, they said to us, like they would, anyone who asked a question, the supervisor would demean and belittle them.
Right.
And then on another call, the CEO of the company, because it was a pretty small team, the CEO of the company said, feel free to bring your manager any questions and they'll bring them to me. And then the manager says, I don't know why you guys feel like you can't ask me or the CEO any questions. Well, maybe it's because you make me feel like a dumbass every time I ask a question. Right. Maybe it's because you're belligerent. And so it's like the culture has to be in place there to allow that.
Yeah. The concept here is psychological safety.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's in the market too, right? Like I was in a training less than 10 days ago. These guys were reporting their experiences. They are out there in the world doing, in this case, CRO roles in real organizations, right? Like it ran the gamut that day. They've been in like from 10 million to $1 billion in annual revenue. And one of the terms is this thing called a phase shift. How long does it take to go in there and change things around? And the standard is 18 months. And the average that their role lasts is 17 months in the industry.
Right.
Like completely at odds with the, hey, we hired you to do this job.
Can't be done.
Right? Yeah. It's like telling your dentist, like, I know a cleaning's an hour and I booked this for 35 minutes and then I got to run. Like,
All right.
Like, I'll see you in 6 months for another half cleaning.
Yeah.
So you're right, Zach. It's a real thing, and it's everywhere.
Everywhere.
It is everywhere. It is everywhere. And that's the thing that's so unfortunate, because people don't treat it the way that it needs to be treated. And because they don't treat it the way that it needs to be treated, it doesn't get the results. And to my earlier point about taking ownership and like really implementing it, right? Like, they sort of half-heartedly implement the training. I'm sure, Bob, that you've seen this, and you too, Jacob. Like, they'll pay lip service to, this is what we need to do, this is the training we need to have. Well, who's going to take ownership of it? Oh, I don't know, but we need to do it, and I'm committed to make this happen. But like, who's actually going to own it? Well, not me, but I'm telling you right now, we need to do this, we need to make it happen. Well, okay. And it's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Scapegoated, right? That's how you get scapegoated, right?
Yep.
If we go around the performance wheel, if the metrics aren't aligned, the leadership behaviors aren't aligned, you're telling me that they couldn't do it. If I threaten their life, could they do it? If the answer is yes, you don't have a training problem. You have a performance problem, but you don't have a skill issue.
Yeah.
You have a will issue. So yes.
And I think that happens way more than we would care to admit as entrepreneurs, as managers. How many times have we got directives from the top and we're like, yeah, okay, they're telling me I need to do this thing now. All right, whatever, I'll do it. They're paying me.
Yeah.
Right. Compliance.
Yeah.
I know.
I
know it's not the right thing to do. Fine.
I think there's a really core component that we sometimes refuse to accept, and that is the people doing the thing and the people telling the other people to do the thing, all that. They're all people. And sometimes that stuff can come down to something as simple as, what kind of a day are they having?
Sure.
Right. And that's maybe one of the most important things about the whole repetition thing, is since there is a human involved. Right. And then we get into some of the deeper, richer stuff, which we've done previous episodes about. I'm sure we'll do more of the actual culture inside the organization too. I definitely have heard of things now, two different versions. One was kind of a bereavement thing, like somebody's gone through a loss, and so they just get to indicate that and be kind of left alone a bit at work. They're like, I'd rather come in here and do something than sit at home. But, I'm not normal.
Right.
And it being okay to be not normal. And so, again, I just think if there's an environment where that kind of communication can happen, then, well, I guess we're going to move training day a week or two, or figure something out, right, based on what's going on. And I think that's a really big piece that doesn't kind of show up often in how things are designed.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys, the cardinal rule, if you want to get ahead in business, the cardinal rule, don't be a dick, right? Yes. Like, it's the cardinal rule. Don't be a dick to your customers. Don't be a dick to your employees. You'll be okay, right? Like, and what you're talking about is seeing the human on the other side of the equation, and training fundamentally requires that. Otherwise, it's just compliance. And I think that if I just want compliance, I can just get an AI now, right? I can get a robot, I can automate it if I just want compliance. But if I want a person to bring the full weight and measure of their experience, their expertise, their knowledge, right, their wisdom, which is knowledge rightly applied, then I need to give them the training and the latitude to do that.
All right, we could go on for like 6 hours on this topic. Right? There's 13 areas of expertise we could go through. I think we've done enough for this.
Stop it. Stop it. He's already dead.
It was enough buffoonery and a good time. And I think we gave everyone some nuggets to chew on. Definitely Google some of the things we talked about: grow coaching, Bloom's taxonomy, kinesthetic learning, right? The forgetting curve, right? We covered a boatload of different topics, from technical training to sales training to leadership. And Gallup's 20% leadership engagement number is not an accident. It's a symptom.
Yes.
And what we're talking about today is part of what needs to change in corporate America if they want to have any shot at retention and growth and being around in 15 to 20 years. So see you next week.
Sure.
Well, and I'm just going to add this real quick, because in the United States, there are 10 million businesses that need to be sold by 2035 or they go away. Why? Yeah. Because no one in the family wants them. So the founders don't have a succession plan there, and none of the employees have the expertise or the financial backing to be able to acquire them. So training is a huge part of this. If you want to be able to exit your business eventually, you cannot bank on private equity. You cannot bank on venture capital riding to the rescue. You have to train your employees to be able to take ownership of it without you. The end.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good stuff, guys.
Really good.